Welcome to VRD History, where we dive into the research and development that defined the icons of motorsport. Monaco 1984, a deluge that should have leveled the playing field instead tilted it violently in favor of a rookie and a midfield underdog. While the mighty McLarens and Ferrari struggled for grip, a young Ayrton Senna was slicing through the spray in a car that looked like nothing else on the grid. This wasn't just Senna magic, this was the Toleman TG184, a technical anomaly born from the mind of Rory Byrne. Today we perform a technical autopsy on the car that proved the establishment could be beaten, provided you had the right aero and the guts to floor it in a monsoon. To understand the TG184, you have to understand its predecessor, the TG183B. That car was bulky, featuring front-mounted radiators that made it a plow in the corners. Byrne knew that for 1984, he needed refinement. The TG184 featured a slimmed-down carbon fiber and aluminium honeycomb monocoque. It was stiffer and narrower, allowing for much cleaner airflow toward the rear of the car. But the real genius was in the suspension geometry. Byrne designed a pushrod front suspension that gave Senna immense feel through the steering rack, essential for the driver who navigated by the limits of adhesion. The most striking feature of the TG184 was its unique double rear wing setup. While rivals focused on massive single-element wings to cope with turbo lag, Byrne went for a sophisticated multi-element approach. There was a secondary wing mounted ahead and slightly above the main rear wing. This wasn't just for downforce, it was for stability. In the 80s, turbo engines were like light switches. Zero power, then 600 plus horsepower hitting the rear tires all at once. This aero configuration helped seal the airflow over the back of the car, providing a consistent aerodynamic platform that didn't stall when the car pitched under heavy acceleration or braking. Under the engine covers sat the Hart 415T. Unlike the massive budget of Renault, BMW or Honda, Brian Hart was a small independent tuner. This 1.5-litre 4-cylinder straight 4 was often dismissed, but it had one massive advantage in the rain: packaging. Because it was a straight 4, it was incredibly narrow compared to the V6 engines of the era. This allowed Byrne to design much larger Venturi tunnels for ground effect. Furthermore, the Hart's power delivery, while still peaky, was more predictable than the violent surges of the BMW Turbo. In the wet streets of Monte Carlo, Senna could modulate the throttle with surgical precision, finding traction where Prost could only find wheel spin. As the rain intensified in Monaco, the TG184's technical advantages coalesced. The high downforce barn door aero kept the tires in their operating window, while the nimble chassis allowed Senna to take unorthodox lines to avoid the slick painted stripes on the road. Senna was catching Alain Prost at a rate of 3 to 4 seconds per lap. The TG184 wasn't just surviving the rain, it was thriving in it. By the time the race was controversially red flagged on lap 31, Senna was practically on Prost's gearbox. The TG184 was the catalyst. It proved that Rory Byrne was an aerodynamic visionary, a man who would later go on to design the dominant Ferraris of the Michael Schumacher era. And for Senna, it was the validation that his technical feedback was as elite as his raw pace. The Toleman TG184 remains a masterclass in independent engineering, a car that used unconventional aero and a giant killer engine to rewrite the history books. If you enjoyed this technical breakdown, hit the subscribe button. We are continuing our Architects of Speed series next week, looking at the men who turned raw physics into podium finishes. This is VRD History.